Hey Friendswood Varsity, if you don't already know me, my name is Sam and today I'm going to be teaching you how to apply your show makeup for the 2019 Winterguard season. Let's get started. Before we begin, I'm going to give you a rundown of everything I've done to my face so far. So I've applied my foundation, concealer where I need it, and I've also applied my concealer to my eyelids to act as a base for the eyeshadow. And I filled in my eyebrows with a brow pencil, and that's pretty much it. Let's get started. First, we're going to be starting out with the eye. So I have the Maybelline 24K Nudes palette. And the first shade that we're going to be using in here is this light matte pink shade. And all I'm going to be using to apply that is this big fluffy blending brush. We're going to dip it in that shade. And we're going to run this through the crease and over the entire lid, just to set it and help the other eyeshadows that we're using blend out easier. The next shade we're going to be using in the palette is this grayish brown shade right here. You don't want to take too much, so I like to just tap mine off a little bit. Less is more when starting out. And I just have a very small fluffy blending brush, smaller than your average one. This is what a normal one I use looks like. Just a tiny bit smaller than that. And we're going to run this through the crease. So I like to start by doing side to side motions in the crease in the outer corner and then build that in to the inner corner. You don't want to take this too far to the inner corner because then the inner corner is going to look too heavy. We're already going to have a very dark color on the lid. And now that we have a good base built up, I'm going to go in with circle motions, blend that out. And as you can see, I don't have this brought up really high out of my crease. And whatever excess is on the brush, just flick out. So if you have a monolid or a hooded lid, for the monolid, you'll just fake that crease. If you have a hooded lid, you kind of want to take this a little bit above your crease of your lid, just because your crease is normally covered. Before we continue on with the eyeshadow, our next step is going to be using our black liner. We're going to trace along that lash line, but we're also going to make this flare out into a really soft wing as well. So you want to make sure the black liner that you're using isn't very dry. It has to be a little bit more blendable or smudgeable. I'm going to pull my eyelid back just so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. If you don't have to do this, great for you. And we're going to have it a little bit heavier on the outer half of the lid, and then just make sure you are very light coming into that inner corner. We want it to gradually get thicker towards the outer corner. And now I'm just going to be taking a flat angled brush, and we're going to be taking this along that liner, and this is where you're going to smudge it out. So whatever excess you have on the brush from pulling it through that liner, we're going to pull up into a little baby wing like so. So I like to hold my mirror at a down 45-degree angle and just continue that line of my lower lash line and flick the brush out to mimic that wing. And then I use, again, that excess to pull in. And sometimes you need to drag a little bit more or add a little bit more liner so you have more to work with. So I'm going to add a little bit more liner right here. And then that helps me complete the wing a little bit better. So there is one wing done. Doesn't have to be perfect. We can always go in later with either a makeup wipe or a sponge. One other thing I forgot to mention about pulling out the liner is that you want it to be a lot more high angled than flat or anything like really sultry. This is gonna be more like Kat Von D's eyeliner that she does at a really high angle, so keep that nice and high. Next, we're going to be taking a flat packing brush, and I'm going to wet this brush a little bit beforehand. I'm using some rose water spray. You can use just water or run it under the sink as long as the brush is just a little bit damp and not wet. And then we're going to take some of this sparkly black charcoal shade on the end. We're gonna spray it again to make it stick. This shadow has a lot of fallout, so that's why we're wetting it. And we wanna up the intensity. So I'm gonna start by adding this on to the center of the lid. And then you can disperse it by patting it out across the rest of the lid. But notice I am not gonna take it very far into that inner corner. We don't wanna make it look too dark. So once you have it on the lid, pat it down. I'm gonna go in with the first small blending brush we used for that gray shadow, and we're gonna blend out the crease and blend out the edges of this shadow. So it literally took me like 2 seconds to do that, and we already have a pretty nice blend going on. Make sure you don't take it out too far, and we'll probably go in and add a little bit more intensity to that black liner. Make sure you don't skip over the step where you dampen your brush. That is super important to the look of the shadow. For the next step, I'm just gonna go over that black liner by the lash line again, but don't worry too much about it because it is supposed to be a little bit more smudged out. Pretty much you just want to make sure none of those sparkles are covering the black line, and then redefine any of that black wing if you need to. But like I said, it's a little bit more smoky, a little bit more smudged out. We're going to be highlighting the inner corner, so I'm going to be taking my small pointed pencil brush, dampening it just a little bit. We're going to dip into this pink shimmery shade on the inner or in the corner. Dampen your brush just a little bit more. We want this to be really vibrant. And we're going to apply this to the inner corner of the eye. Just a little dot on the inner corner. Nothing too much. We don't want to take away from this. And then whatever excess is left on it, highlight the arch of that brow. So basically just get up into that arch. Don't bring it down or anything. We just want it on that very high point. Next, we're going to take our black pencil liner once again, and we're going to line the lower lash line and the waterline. Also, you want to make sure you connect that outer corner to the wing. Next, I'm going to be taking a different pointed pencil brush, and we're going to dip into that first shade we used in the crease, this grayish brown shade right here, and just apply this to the lower lash line to smoke it out. Next step is optional, but I'm going to be curling my lashes. We're going to add a light layer of mascara. I'm just going to add a light enough layer to make my lashes black, and I'm not going to add any to the lower lash line just because we have a heavy color on the lower lash line, so might as well save a little bit of mascara and time, because no one will be able to tell. While our mascara is drying, I'm going to talk you through how to apply false lashes. So for me, I have the Ardell 817s. You don't have to get the foam ink. I know these are a little bit more expensive, but the band is a little bit easier to use to apply the lash, so that's why I like these. But you pretty much want anything that has a really wispy, long lash to it, really dramatic, like these. So if you're like me, I need to cut down my lash to fit it to my eye. So if you need to do that, you're gonna want to take the lash out of the box. You're gonna place it on the lid, measure it out, see where it sits comfortably. Then you'll be able to tell how much you need to take off, or if the lash will just fit you perfectly as is. And then if it doesn't, cut from the band side of the lash, not the lash side of the lash. Once you have that, I'm gonna move on and show you the next steps. Once you have the lash sized out correctly, then you're gonna apply your glue along the band and wait about 30 to 45 seconds for it to become tacky, and then I'll walk you through the next steps. Now the glue on my lash has gotten tacky. I have these lash tweezers to make it a little bit easier to apply them. You can also just use regular tweezers or your fingers, doesn't matter, whatever works for you. So I'm gonna be taking the lash. I wanna come from a high 45-degree angle and place the lash on that lash line. And then I go in with my fingers and I press that lash to the lash line. Once you have your lash on, make sure you keep pressing it up. We already have a heavy color on the lid, so we don't want the eyelashes to make the eyes look even darker. We want to really open them up with this lash, so make sure the lashes are sitting nice and high and not flat. Now that we're done with the lashes, we're going to move on to the rest of the face. So let's start out with a little bit of bronzer. And we're not going to be putting on a lot of this, just a little bit to warm up the face, but the features are definitely not contouring. And we're going to be using this on the forehead just to warm up the forehead area. I like to pretty much take this around the whole hairline from temple to temple. And then I go along my cheekbone. So here's the hollow space. You want to go a little bit above that, right along the edge of the cheekbone to warm it up. Just a little bit there, and I like to push it into the hairline as well. Give the face a little bit of color and also bring it on the neck if needed. After that, we're going to be using blush. This is the Maybelline Fit Me blush in the shade Berry, I believe. And we're going to be using a lot of this. You and JD are using a lot of blush this year. So I'm going to apply this on the apples of my cheeks, and then whatever excess, I just brush up into that bronzer that we just put on. Also, blush is going to be one of the first things that you sweat off, so make sure you apply it very heavily. And if you get into any trouble where you apply too much blush, just use any brush to kind of dust that off. So we're not going to be doing highlighter on the skin or anything. So I'm going to be using my foundation powder, and I'm just going to set my foundation everywhere where we haven't applied any other powder products. And this is optional, you don't have to do this. I do this because I know in a color guard setting in Winterguard, I get sweaty and I don't want to sweat off my makeup, and the powder will help it last a little bit longer. And if you need setting spray, you can use that. If you don't want to, you don't have to, it's optional. Lastly, to finish off the makeup look, we're going to be applying the NYX Liquid Suede Lipstick in the shade Kitten Heels. That's going to be it for this tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below, or I'll leave my email in the description box and you can send me an email there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing start to your season.